This is Greg Orloff, the IoT World, and I am here today with Paul Rogers. And Paul is the President and CEO of Americas and Asia Pacific for Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Greg, excited to be here.
Oh,
One of
excited
my
to have
favorite
you.
subjects is, yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it.
You've got some great background in IoT, I know as well, in addition to the fantastic work you guys are doing over at Hexagon. So maybe that will come out in the conversation too.
You bet. I love to talk about the fact that IoT actually went, or IIoT went back to the late 90s. It just wasn't called
It's
that.
the rebranding, so to speak, right? Of the
Yes.
Yeah, I know in manufacturing especially, it seems like when you adopt new technologies, whether you're morphing the vernacular or not, a lot of times the smaller organizations sometimes feel overwhelmed or apprehensive, in adopting some of these new things, especially across the digitalization frontier. I know
Yeah.
Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence, you've kind of taken a pretty strong stance, it seems, in advocating an approach for kind of a staggered step, if you will, or no, just kind of a piecemeal at a time, kind of a bite size of apple at a time. If you could, I mean, how can small manufacturers shops or small manufacturing shops, begin their journey into smart manufacturing, kind of taking some of those incremental steps? And what are the key technologies that they should prioritize first?
Yeah, I think there's a myth out there that you have to buy some major platform and it's going to be a multi-million dollar investment, and that you're going to have to overhaul all of your processes and infrastructure to be, data centric. And I think that in the very early days of IIoT, probably around the 2008 timeframe, that was something that was definitely being pushed in the sense that, big corporations coming out with mega platforms that could do a lot, but weren't applicable to small businesses. When I think in terms of what should be done first, that first step is to begin the process, and the key word is begin the process of digitization and start eliminating paper process, which is something that I talk about quite a bit. And once, you get that ball rolling, then you can start thinking in terms of what I would call relatively inexpensive optimization software. You don't have to optimize your entire facility, but if there are areas where you have concerns or areas where you think you can be more efficient, there's a ton of very inexpensive software starters.
No, very good.
Yeah.
Kind of to that lag point or that apprehension, I mean, what are some of the biggest misconceptions you think manufacturers may have about digitalization and the implementation for driving these types of adoption?
Yeah, and I think some of it probably was driven by the industry. There is a belief that data has to be, or it was portrayed that
Mhm.
data had to be perfect, data had to be centralized. And there was a lot of work being done in major corporations around data lakes. And data lakes sound, very foreboding. It sounds like a massive investment. All of your
Right.
data is going to be centralized. And the reality is that it couldn't be farther from the truth. It's amazing how little, or the relatively small number of data points you need to optimize a piece of equipment or optimize a process. It's best if you have a lot of data associated with those points, but typically you just need a handful of points. And if you have access to the systems, regardless of if it's in one system or 10, if you have access, you can easily get that data and begin your journey right away without any big centralized data approach.
Makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of to that point, I hear oftentimes there's the analysis paralysis versus all in
Yes.
out of the gate, right? What advice do you have for manufacturers in determining what level of smart manufacturing adoption is good enough? Key on good enough, to address those specific pain points effectively.
Yeah. It's interesting because each manufacturer has their own unique challenges. And so I would approach it from a challenges perspective.
Okay.
What are the areas that you want to improve upon? And what's your current level of operating or accuracy? I've got lots of stories where, we went in and created incredible levels of accuracy associated with super important equipment, only to find out that, we had spent a ton of time creating accuracy that wasn't necessary. In some instances, you're just trying to get your equipment to run a little bit more effective, or, be a little bit more efficient to reduce cycle times or things of that nature. And so incremental improvements, I think, is the way that it should be thought about. I have these problems, they're unique to me. This is my current level of performance, and I'd like to increase that 10%. That gives us as a provider a lot to work with. And again, with that incremental approach, you end up coming up with a solution that's relatively straightforward and truly inexpensive.
Plus, you've got a direct bogey to hit if they give you a target, right?
That's right.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Generalized improvement is hard to show that you've had an impact. But
Nebulous.
certain KPIs, yeah.
Can you share any examples of clients you've worked with? And you don't have to name names, but just maybe some case studies or something where that someone was adopting or walking down a path of industrial digitalization towards Industry 4.0, or even, dare I say, 5.0 at this point?
Yes, 5.0 is the new one. I've got a lot of examples, that certainly were impactful to me. We had customers where, they were running oil fields. This is going way back. And, we were thinking of, before we'd even really sat down with the customer, we were thinking, they're going to want to optimize the outflow of oil from that field. And so we'd come up with, days of work to go in and be impressive. And then we sat down with them and they indicated, could you tell us if the equipment is on? And so that became, I've told this story quite a bit because it was just so startling. And it turns out that on was something that they didn't have. And we had a solution for that. Their data was very disparate and it was very isolated, but we were able to solve that for them and go on a journey with them. We have examples of customers who, had things calculated to a livable accuracy, and they had asked us to improve that accuracy, which we did, and then we found out that it didn't have the impact that they were hoping for, and so that's another thing, is really understanding again your data, but the every customer that we've sat with, and when I think in terms of the challenges that face us, they're always different. One of the best examples I think is actually Hexagon itself. When you go to customers, and I know you know this as well, the first thing they're going to ask you is, do you use your own products?
You drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yes, there's a whole lot of terms for it. But I've been with Hexagon for several years now. That was a big initiative for us, and we started utilizing our own products, and we had massive improvements in our manufacturing to the tune of plus 70% in some of our efficiencies.
Wow.
And so even optimization companies, can look back behind themselves and go, are we using our own technology? And we started, actually incrementally improving our manufacturing. And we went, well, I should say we had incredible results on cycle times for the units that go out the door.
Right.
And, our ability to raise the accuracy of our machines was enhanced as well. So that's probably one of my favorite examples is that we optimized ourselves. And so we do bring a lot of customers to our own factories, and we have prime examples of our own technologies optimizing our facilities.
No, it's fantastic. Anytime you can do that, it's a huge testament to yourself or to the client, I should say. Leveraging
Yeah.
internal movement. You touch on a lot of different industries and a lot of different organizations. Are there any particular sectors within manufacturing that are adopting innovations? The AI is one that comes to mind. Digital twins is another larger one that you hear more rapidly than the others. And maybe more importantly, what challenges or opportunities are you seeing that's driving that type of growth?
Yeah, the biggest industries that we typically serve right now are automotive and aerospace. And you can imagine they're very advanced. And so the solutions that we work with them on are very high end. They are big users of digital twins, because as you know, automobiles and airplanes really need to go together, and they need to best understand how that's going to occur, and if that's going to occur before they attempt to essentially put a wing on a plane or something of that nature. When I think in terms of other areas, though, like energy, and even things like the food manufacturing, they use a lot of AI, and they use a lot of AI in the machine learning sense. And so you have AI that's, Chat GPT, and it can tell you, answers to, verbal questions. A lot of AI in the manufacturing world is mathematically based, and that's where things like machine learning come in play. Machine learning for the energy space and for what I would call high-speed production is definitely geared towards things like condition-based maintenance, and condition-based monitoring. And so machine learning is huge in those spaces. And so you have digital twins in major groups like automotive and aerospace, and then high-speed production, you have a lot of applications of elements of AI.
It's interesting to watch it manifest and creep into a lot of different aspects of life, and it touches a lot of areas that people don't even think about, right? It's really leveraging.
Yeah. And what's interesting about a digital twin, there's the digital twin that you can see on screen, and we have scanners that can create the images of what you want to show up on screen. But almost all optimization, going back quite a few years, is mathematical digital twins. Because if you're trying to optimize a piece of equipment, the way that you optimize it is you create a digital twin of that equipment and you run scenario-based optimization. It runs for a period of time, and then it tells you, the current conditions of your piece of equipment. But more importantly, it can tell you, based on what you're doing today, if you adjusted these two elements of your piece of equipment, it would run even more efficient. And so that's been going on quite a while.
There's also a lot of buzz around, the workforce in general. And as with any time you've got new technology, it seems
Yes.
no matter what decade or century we live in, there's something haunting out there that's going to destroy lives or steal jobs or what have you. Any predictions about, the 2025 workforce that might surprise people from your perspective, and perception?
Yeah, I think to go on this journey, the first thing you need to have is a continuous improvement mindset. You got to be thinking in terms of, how do I improve my manufacturing environment? Because, as you'd expect, there is a generational element. You have the generation that's been doing something for 20 years and it works. What you're going to find in 2025 in particular is the newer generation asks the question, why? Why does it work, and can it, be even more efficient? The next generation of worker is going to be completely different, and I see it in my own children who are in their early 20s. The thing that they would not expect in a manufacturing environment is paper. They don't use paper. My kids went to school and, they had a backpack and a computer. They worked, digitally, and they
Right.
were digital native. And so paper wasn't something that was common. And you see people on clipboards all the time in manufacturing environments. They would probably be expecting a computer or an iPad. And then, when you think in terms of the way that they've learned and the way that they continue to learn, it's still on a digital basis. And so when you slide over that equipment manual that's this thick and
Right.
covered in oil,
Spiral bound, right?
they're not you're right, they're not going to know what to do with it. Nor should they. They're used to search terms and having everything on a digital basis. And so manufacturers have to adapt to the workforce that's going to be entering, and they really have begun entering in 24 and 25. And I expect that they will be the generation that drives true digitization.
That's interesting. It's going to be exciting to watch it unfold because I think you're right. It's going to be a paradigm shift, right? You see it in kids and grandkids and babies trying to swipe TV screens that don't have a swipe capability and all kinds of things like that. So,
Is, and to not really know what to do with a binder, because how do you search that? I had a great interaction with my kids, classic dad. I was going to the store for groceries, and of course, I wrote everything down on a piece of paper. And so I asked everyone, do you want anything at the grocery store? And my two kids texted me what they wanted, even though they were standing 2 feet from me. And so what did I do? I took it right off my phone and I wrote it on my list. And then they were laughing and I was like, well, I need my list. And then, I didn't want to look like I had a list in the grocery store. So I took a picture of it and I told them, oh, I've digitized my grocery list. I often tell people that story to say that is not digitization.
it's not optimized electron transfer, but it works, right?
Yes, it works, and that's the generational difference is, for someone in my generation, everything was very physical and tangible. I work in an industry that is very, very high tech. But they come from everything from a different perspective, and this perspective is complete digitization.
No, indeed. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing, Paul. Some great insights and some great takeaways. So thank you very much.
No, I had a great time. I could talk about this for a while, and I think it's something that's going to continue to mature over the course of time.